Kokoro Audio and China Literature presents Volume 4 of Birth of the Demonic Sword, series by Eve of Chaos, performed and narrated by a full cast. If you enjoyed listening to this title, please be sure to check out www.kokoroaudio.com for more content. Noah ran near the western side of the continent. He was fast, and he shot through the plains without hesitation, only looking at what was in front of him. He was clad in a tight black robe with a hood that covered his face, and he was speeding in a straight line along the coastline, using it as his landmark.
2 months have passed by now. I bet that the information about my element has become public already.
Noah knew that the noble families would retort in some way to his absence from the meeting. He had already considered the worst possible outcome, and he couldn't care less.
Even if they label me as a criminal and start a manhunt, I am already outside their reach.
In the 2 months after the events in the Bear Dungeon, Noah did everything he could to cover his tracks and escape the Utra Nation. He had destroyed the tokens he had as a hunter and the ones from the academy for fear of being tracked down by the royals. He really didn't want to bet on Ivor's words. Then he had inspected Phoebe and Manuel's space rings, taking a large number of resources and potions before destroying the rings too. Lastly, he had cut his hair short. He didn't think that a simple haircut would hide his identity in front of other cultivators, but he believed that it could slow down the investigations. As for his escape plan, it was quite simple. The Bear Dungeon was already near the border of the nation. It was at only 1 week of travel from the royal city, after all. Reaching the border took him no time. Noah had chosen to move to the westernmost part of the country, though, before abandoning the nation, and he had his reasons for that. The first one was that he had no idea about the actual layout of the other countries, so he could only use the coastline to be sure of his path. The second one was that the western side of the country was the one with fewer cultivators. At the center of the border there was the royal city, and on the eastern side there was the academy. Those two structures gathered the majority of cultivators of that part of the country. The others would just reside in their mansions, and would generally avoid the areas populated by commoners. However, Noah preferred to hide his presence even in front of those commoners. During his travels, he had encountered many small or large villages that had only a few weak cultivators residing. Those were the moments when he would use the warp spell. Noah had always held back in using that spell during his battles, mostly because he wanted to hide his actual proficiency. But there was more to it. The warp spell was hard to perform. It required a great deal of concentration and mental energy, and required the user to see or to sense the place where he would teleport. Also, it needed some time to be cast. Its efficiency in battle completely depended on the situation. Yet one big advantage was that it left no traces of the user. Noah had used that spell as soon as he came out of the Bear Dungeon to make any possible spy of the royals lose track of him. Then, he had proceeded to use it every time he found any settlement. It was the best approach to prevent anyone from noticing him. The distance covered by one teleportation could only cover a few kilometers at best, but it was enough to leave those villages. Another time when this spell had been required was when he had reached the border of the nation. Noah was sure that there was a formation in place, so he had used the warp spell repeatedly to cross it. That formation mostly prevented outsiders from entering the country. It hadn't been created for the opposite situation, but Noah still had chosen to use his spell. He didn't really want to notify the royals of his escape, after all. The rest of his escape was just running. 2 months spent running had allowed him to cross thousands of kilometers. and thanks to his rank 4 body, he had only needed to rest a few times to recover.
Another village.
Noah saw another settlement in the distance. It didn't seem the kind of place that could be inhabited by cultivators, but he still decided to resort to the warp spell. Noah focused his mental energy on the other side of the village and activated the spell, being immediately enveloped by a black fire, only to reappear a few kilometers in the distance. Yet as soon as he reappeared, he found 2 fishermen staring at him with wide eyes.
Fuck. My mental sphere still can't give me a perfect perception when it comes to long distances.
Noah uncovered his hood and smiled at the 2 commoners, all while performing a bow.
Do you know which country this is?
The 2 fishermen had seen that man coming out of the black smoke, and were even more surprised when they saw how young he was.
This is Athor country, my lord.
Noah nodded and continued to smile.
Do you happen to know which countries are its allies?
The fishermen thought for a while before shaking their heads.
We are simple commoners, my lord. We don't really understand this stuff about cultivation.
It seems that I still can't stop.
Noah released 2 strands of black smoke that enveloped the fishermen and performed another warp further in the distance. The partial demonic form devoured those commoners in an instant, leaving no trace of them.
I still don't know if I left the area of influence of the Utra Nation.
However, Noah didn't care at all about those 2. He had decided to kill them as soon as they saw the black flames. This world was a dangerous one. One day you could meet a dragon and die under its might. Another you could meet a man escaping from his country who was willing to do anything to cover his tracks.
Luck can determine life and death. Only personal power can cut the strings that control your fate.
It was with that thought that Noah continued to speed in the distance, uncaring of the beauty of the crystalline sea on his left. More time passed. Noah had never stopped in his escape. He would only rest when his body reached its limits, only to run again as soon as he recovered. The continued use of the warp spell and the relentless march were beginning to affect his psyche, but he didn't dare to stop. The royals had cultivators in the heroic ranks at their disposal, and Noah wouldn't bet on their negligence for his escape.
If only I could stop overusing the warp spell. Never mind. It's too dangerous.
Noah was using his potions to refill as much mental energy as he could to support his spell. The constant stress and efforts prevented his mind to be at ease and slowed the pace at which his mental sphere produced energy. He had to resort to his stash of medicines to continue running. Also, he could avoid using the warp spell if he stopped crossing inhabited areas, but he would risk entering danger zones that way.
It is clear that I still can't kill a rank 4 magical beast alone, and I have already used the shard of the demonic sword. I am at my weakest right now.
Since he didn't know the actual layout of the continent, he could only cross inhabited areas because he was sure of their safety. Humans could never develop in a danger zone. Only special structures inhabited by cultivators could survive there. Like that, his journey continued. He crossed plains and mountains, small forests and lakes, always keeping the sea to his left side. He had seen the sea in his previous life already. That sight was not enough to make him stop in wonder.
How big is this damned continent? I would have crossed half of my previous world now.
The speed that he was capable of with his rank 4 body was incredible, but it still didn't seem enough to reach the domain of the Shandal Empire.
Once I reach the area of influence of the Empire, I will be momentarily safe.
That was the first stop planned in Noah's mind. He had a lot to do. There was the bloodline inheritance that still needed to be absorbed. Noah had momentarily sealed the head of the rank 4 worm in a barrel filled with the blood of the weaker worms that had been in his space rings. However, that was only a momentary solution. He could not completely stop the deterioration of the head. Also, he had to forge his demonic swords. His battle prowess was too low for him to be safe in a foreign country. Then, he wanted to resume a normal pace of training and gather information about his whereabouts. He couldn't continue to run blindly in a straight line. As for why he had chosen the Shandal Empire as his first stop, it was because it was the strongest nation on the continent.
Ideally, since I'm on the coastline, I should arrive in one of the countries subjugated by the Empire. I should be quite safe there.
He didn't dare to directly enter the Empire. He just wanted to lie low in one of the countries around it. It was only in his 4th month of travel that he encountered some changes in the environment. Noah found himself in front of an endless mountain range that seemed to cut the continent in two.
These don't seem like normal mountains. They look like the work of a formation master.
Noah carefully neared the mountain range and felt an ominous sensation coming from them.
It's either a formation or a danger zone. I can't simply cross it in either case.
He thought about the issue for a moment before 2 pairs of wings came out of his back. Then he flew in the direction of the sea to see if that sensation vanished. Then he was surprised to see a large and seemingly bustling city right between the sea and the mountain range.
What? How wasn't I able to sense it? Is it because of the formation?
Noah was amazed by its concealment and could only attribute that ability to the formation.
It doesn't seem possible to sneak inside the next country. I should just see if I can pay them.
Noah landed in an empty spot on the sandy beach and calmly walked toward the main gate of the city. That city had a simple defensive wall that surrounded it, and many inscriptions could be seen on its surface.
It should be more dangerous than it looks. I bet that it's one of the cores of the formation.
Formations needed a constant supply of breath to work, and that city seemed to provide some of it.
Welcome to the independent city of Slyfall. I need your identification token and 1,000 credits to let you enter.
A soldier in rusty armor blocked him right in front of the gate. Noah didn't answer, but looked around to see if there was someone else observing him. Yet it seemed that the soldier was the only guard appointed for that spot.
Who does this city serve?
The soldier seemed used to that question. He smiled.
We serve everyone. The city is placed right between the areas of influence of 2 great nations. So we can't really take sides. I have to say, you are more inclined towards the Empire, though.
Noah nodded. He had guessed as much already.
To be part of the formation, this city must have the protection of a strong party. Their independence is just a facade used for gathering information. What if I gave you 10,000 credits? Would that be enough to buy your silence?
The soldier smiled again, but shook his head.
You must be a noble on the run. I've seen many of your kind. However, I still need to give you a token to allow your entrance. I can't just create a fake...
30,000. And an earth pill. You want to break through the solid stage, right?
Noah raised his offer. He had already noticed that the soldier was rank 1 cultivator at the peak of the liquid stage. The only thing that could hold him back from attempting the breakthrough was the lack of resources. The soldier finally stopped, smiling, and looked at Noah with a bit of wariness in his eyes. The hooded man in front of him had to be way stronger than him to discern so accurately his level. It took the soldier just a few seconds for him to smile again and take a token from his space ring.
Welcome to Slyfall, Mr. Adam.
The city of Slyfall was a simple one. It wasn't luxurious or clean. It had only one large market, a few hostels, and many taverns.
This really resembles one of the pirates' hideouts of my previous world. I kinda like it.
The streets were filled with drunkards and women with revealing clothes. But what surprised Noah even more was that most of them were cultivators.
It seems that I ended up in the gathering point of the criminals of both nations. I should go on my way as soon as I finish my most pressing matters.
Noah had his hood lowered. The soldier had advised him not to wear it inside the city, and he had finally understood why.
Everyone here should have quite a record. They won't like someone unwilling to show his face. A hood would just attract trouble.
He went looking for the best hostel that he could find, and he rented a room for the exorbitant price of 100 credits per night. Noah didn't care much about that price. He was in a seemingly lawless city, after all. They could set any price they wanted. Also, the one chosen by Noah was one of the best hostels in the city. He needed the right structure for what he was going to do.
I can't just absorb the bloodline inheritance anywhere. I need a safe and silent space to focus completely on it.
The records about the bloodline inheritance were scarce. Noah only knew how to absorb it and its effects. Yet what he knew for sure was that the head of the rank 4 worm was deteriorating, and he needed to hurry in absorbing its sea of consciousness before it became ruined. Noah immediately went to his room and closed the door behind him. The room was simple but wide. It had a large bed and one couch with a mat laid on the floor. Also, the density of breath wasn't bad either. Noah guessed that all the expensive habitations had a way to increase its concentration.
This will do. I don't think it will take more than 2 weeks.
Noah had paid the rent for 3 weeks already. He needed that amount of time to return to his peak form and undergo the absorption. 4 months of constant march weighed on his physical condition. He couldn't just straight up cultivate again. He needed to rest. Noah went directly to sleep. The fatigue of the travel forced him to rest for more than half a day before his mind could be considered recovered.
According to the records, I will undergo the life of the beasts while I absorb it.
Noah ate a satisfying meal before sitting cross-legged on the mat on the floor. Then he took out the barrel where he had sealed the head of the rank 4 worm, and he opened it. A pungent smell immediately enveloped the room. 4 months were really too much even for a rank 4 material. Noah stabbed his hand in the severed part of the head and took out a small, dark red crystal from it. That was the solidified sea of consciousness of the magical beast, the bloodline inheritance that he had worked so hard to obtain.
To think that this small thing is one of the best medicines for the mental sphere of a cultivator. My mind should be able to handle it, right?
What worried Noah the most was the capability of his mind. A bloodline inheritance essentially contained all the experiences of the magical beast and its predecessors. It could come in many forms, depending on how much time had passed from its creation. Of course, the more a beast with a sea of consciousness lived, the more its mind would be valuable. The sea of consciousness of a magical beast was a worse version of humans, containing only raw thoughts and strong emotions. It couldn't really be used for casting spells or similar purposes. However, that was exactly why the cultivators could absorb it. Their thoughts were denser, their emotions more diversified. They basically had a more complex mind. Yet if a beast lived for too long, its mind could equal the might of the heroic ranks, making it impossible for cultivators in the human ranks to absorb it.
It shouldn't have been more than 20 years. I don't believe that the royals would have let it live if they had recognized the inheritance.
Noah didn't know it, but the last cleansing performed by the royals had happened only 15 years ago. His mind could completely cope with the absorption process. The crystal seemed frail. Its surface was rough and uneven, and it was really far from a perfected sea of consciousness. Noah exhaled loudly, and then neared the crystal to the middle of his eyebrows. The crystal crossed his skin and trespassed his skull, passing unhindered by Noah's brain to reach for his sea of consciousness. As soon as it entered Noah's mental sphere, its borders broke, and the mental energy contained inside was poured into Noah's mind. It was at that moment that he lost control of his body and began to dream. Cultivators scarcely dreamt. As their minds improved, they would be more aware of their surroundings in their sleep. Yet Noah completely lost control of himself as his mind started to absorb the thoughts of the beast. In the dream, Noah opened his eyes only to see a dark underground place. He ran through tunnels and cavities by instinct. His mind was only led by one basic feeling: hunger. Noah had never felt so hungry before. It seemed something compulsory, an instinct he could not suppress. He followed the trail of the breath. He knew that it came from a living being. However, when he arrived in the place where the breath was exuded, he found himself in front of 100 worm corpses. Those were his companions, his pack. He was momentarily stunned by that sight. Then a human appeared in the air. His facial features were unclear, but Noah clearly recognized the golden color of his armor. The cultivator simply waved his hand, creating a dense layer of air that completely stomped Noah, reducing him to a meat paste. It was at that moment that Noah died, the exact moment when hate appeared in his mind. Noah died, but his will remained. It wasn't a conscious will, only a sliver of the strong emotion that he had felt when he died. His body was left on the ground to feed other worms. Noah felt as if his conscience was spread among other beings. The hunger returned. It was an instinct too strong to suppress. Noah had to eat, or he would go crazy. Yet that place didn't have that much breath to begin with. Only the terrain offered some kind of nourishment. Noah ate the terrain without hesitation. His mind was divided between 10 or so worms, but his experiences were the same. All he did for years was excavating and eating terrain, without ever managing to satisfy his hunger. Then, that feeling became even stronger. Noah couldn't control himself. He went looking for his companions. When he found another magical beast, he pounced at it without hesitation. He fought, using his body to perform simple attacks. The surprise attack didn't allow his opponent to defend himself. He was able to kill it in a few attacks. Then he ate it. The feeling of having his hunger pleased was incomparable. He felt full, almost complete in some ways. Yet that moment of pleasure left him unguarded. Other worms had watched that act of cannibalism and didn't hesitate to follow his example. They pounced at Noah from different angles, killing him in a few seconds. Noah died again. but his will spread to those that had eaten him. Those same events repeated again and again for many years. It was a simple life, guided only by his instincts. Then the humans invaded his lair again. The worms lost themselves at the sight of such an appealing prey, but they couldn't match their power. They could only jump at them while the humans simply waved their hands to kill tens of them at the same time. Many of the worms carrying Noah's will died, increasing his hatred toward those powerful humans. The corpses of the beasts became the nourishment for the new pack, spreading Noah's hatred in each surviving worm. He was now inside each beast of the pack, but they still had a different will. He couldn't control them. Another life of cannibalism began. Noah found himself dying and eating at the same time. That feeling seemed natural. He lived to satisfy his hunger after all, and there were no ethics or morals in the world of the magical beasts. Yet the humans would always come to kill him. That cycle repeated many times. Noah felt his will becoming stronger and denser after every death. Like that, his thoughts became more complex. At first it was only simple hatred. He hated those that had killed him so many times. Then he began to feel envious of them. They moved their bodies in a strange way to obtain amazing effects, and Noah wondered if he could do the same. He began to actively feel his body. It was soft but resilient. He wondered if he could use it to imitate the humans. Yet he was too weak, and his conscience was still too spread. His thoughts only lasted for a few days before disappearing completely. He spent hundreds of years like that, dying, eating, thinking. He felt the death of each worm. He felt the hunger of each worm. Then something happened. The humans began to feel threatened by them, and decided to leave only a few beasts after their cleansing. Those few remaining beasts fought for the privilege of eating their dead companions, leaving only one of them alive. Noah's will was finally concentrated in a single beast again. The feeling was amazing. He had a clear mind, and he could finally think before following his instincts. That allowed him to survive more easily. It allowed him to actively choose when to develop his pack and when to resort to cannibalism. And it finally allowed him to actively use his body to imitate the humans. Then Noah saw himself. He watched the entire fight against Daniel and his group from the point of view of the rank 4 creature. Noah held on. His body was filled with injuries, but he still performed the technique that he had spent years creating. Yet those efforts were in vain. He ultimately died again at the hands of the humans. His will remained, but it didn't spread to other beasts. It was held captive in a barrel inside his lifeless head. Then Noah saw himself picking the bloodline inheritance and pressing it to his forehead. He felt himself disappearing, fusing with the mind of the human. It was at that moment that Noah woke up, and his consciousness returned to his human body. He released an inhumane screech before thrashing himself around while holding his head. He felt as if his mental sphere was going to explode. It took him a while to calm down. His mind was still sore, and he couldn't assess its actual improvements. However, he could focus again on the room and watch what he had done while he was dreaming. The room was almost destroyed. Noah could see as every piece of furniture had been broken and bitten. There were bite marks everywhere. Noah inspected his mouth and found many pieces of wood between his teeth.
Don't tell me that I have actually eaten part of the room.
Noah inspected his body, but found nothing wrong with it. Even if he had eaten something strange, there were no apparent consequences.
That was so strange. I have completely lost myself in the experiences of the worms. What a pitiful life they have.
Noah clearly remembered every sensation of when he was a worm. Yet as a human, he couldn't imagine being completely driven by his instincts. His mind was simply too complex.
That hunger. Is that what every magical beast feels? No wonder they are so aggressive. They literally need to eat, or they go mad.
Noah could only have those few considerations before deciding that he was too tired. The process of absorbing the bloodline inheritance had exhausted him. He needed to recover to assess his actual gains. He went to sleep on the remaining part of the bed, hoping to have dreamless sleep. When Noah woke up, he could clearly feel the benefits of the bloodline inheritance. His mind was clearer, his thoughts faster, his mental sphere firm. Every advancement of the Sea of Consciousness would actively increase the capabilities of a cultivator's mind. Not only did it make him smarter, it also enlarged his point of view, allowing him to consider more possibilities that he thought impossible before. Of course, what Noah immediately noticed was the increased size of his mental sphere.
I've gained 2 to 3 years of training. The records about the bloodline inheritance were right. It really is the best item for the training of the mind.
Absorbing the Sea of Consciousness of a magical beast directly increased the mental capabilities of a cultivator. There were really no other potions or pills that could achieve something like that. However, such a sudden enlargement could lead to an injury, or worse. Noah had relied once again on the advantage of his sturdy mind to absorb that inheritance.
I should stop applying pressure on my mental sphere for a while to let it stabilize. I'm not resuming my training schedule just yet, after all.
Noah focused on the gaseous breath contained in his mind. He immersed it in the crystalline sea inside his sphere. That water was the representation of his thoughts and will. He was going to refine that breath. However, he didn't leave that energy inside the sea for long. He took it out as soon as he became able to control it. Then, he simply dispersed that breath in the air. His mind had to always endure a constant internal pressure due to his blood companions and the breath needed for the elemental forging method. Noah had decided to remove one of those things to ease it.
Without the breath inside my mind, I basically feel no pressure at all.
His normal state had been one on the verge of a splitting headache for the last 2 years. He had to admit that having a completely relaxed mind was a good feeling.
I'll stay like this for a few weeks. Then I'll increase the quantity of breath stored. I need to become a rank 3 mage as soon as possible.
Of course, peace and relaxation were the last things that Noah wanted. His Dantian was improving at a fast pace since he obtained a rank 4 body, but even if it reached the liquid stage, the actual advantages would be limited. Noah guessed that, if he reached the liquid stage of the 2nd rank of the Dantian, he would finally be able to kill a rank 4 beast all by himself.
That would still require me to go all out, but my attacks will surely inflict more damage. Yet, the third rank of the mind would put me on a completely different level.
Since he was reborn in that world, Noah's biggest advantage had always been his more developed mind. Then Noah began to rely more on it because his most powerful spell depended on his mind.
Performing the demonic form spell with a rank 3 Sea of Consciousness would increase my battle prowess far more than when reaching the liquid stage. It is a completely different rank after all. It can't be compared to a more concentrated breath.
Noah knew that both those breakthroughs were still quite far in the future, yet he couldn't help but be expectant toward them.
I should cultivate for a few days and then be on my way. I neither trust that soldier nor anyone in this city. I need to reach a real independent country. Also, I might have an idea about a new technique.
Noah did exactly as he planned. He cultivated for a few days in order to revitalize his centers of power and return to his peak form. The high density of breath in the room, coupled with his piece of breath blessing, created an environment that surpassed even the best training rooms of wealthy nobles. His dantian was refilled in no time, and Noah was even able to improve it by a bit.
At least my body is autonomously reaching the peak of the lower tier of the fourth rank. My lack of body nourishing methods isn't a pressing matter just yet.
After he had recovered, he left the room in a hurry. It was best to disappear before the poor state of the habitation was discovered. Noah went to the market. He needed to find information about the actual layout of the continent. He couldn't just blindly follow the coastline like he had done for the past 4 months. The journey from that place would be somewhat more dangerous than before. He was now marching toward a powerful nation instead of running away from it. Noah wanted to avoid meeting soldiers of the Empire at all costs. All he wanted to do was to lie low for a few years in some messy country in order to work on himself. Yet, detailed maps were hard to find in that environment. Most of them simply showed the form of the continent. They didn't have any details on them with the exception of a few big cities.
Don't you have one with political borders and danger zones?
Noah asked a merchant that was proudly showing his maps to him.
Are you kidding? That stuff belongs to rulers and powerful organizations. If I had something that precious, I wouldn't have to set up a shop in the middle of the street.
The merchant's answer made Noah frown.
In the capital, all the shops had access to high-quality items. Things are really different in the small cities. Can't you at least tell me where I can find one of them?
Noah was really in need of a detailed map.
Yeah, knock on the Lord's mansion and ask for one. Stop bothering.
The merchant's phrase was interrupted by Noah unleashing his cold pressure and nearing his face.
Look, I don't want trouble. Tell me where I can find the map, and I'll reward you. Let's do this the nice way.
Noah smiled at the merchant, but the latter couldn't feel any good intentions coming from that expression. He then understood that Noah was being serious, and he lowered his head to hide his mouth from the people in the street.
The broken cup has an underground chamber with stolen items. They should be quite precious, so that is the only place that could have what you're looking for.
Underground chamber with stolen items. I can already smell the trouble from here.
Noah fell deep in thought after learning that information.
Those items must come from wealthy cultivators. There is nothing that prevents them from stealing them again from me after my purchase.
Noah was aware that the best way to maximize profits was to rob your customers, those who seemed weak, at least.
I'm alone and lost. I would be their perfect target. Damn it!
Noah threw a few thousand credits to the merchant before opening his mouth to speak.
Where is this place, and how do I enter that room?
A few minutes later, Noah found himself in front of a simple-looking tavern. It had a wooden tag that depicted a broken cup. Noah knew that he had arrived at the right place. The tavern was small. It only had 2 floors filled with wooden tables on which men and women happily drank. The main hall was messy, and the sound of cheers and shouts could be heard coming from each group of people.
So many cultivators. They don't seem particularly strong, though.
Noah crossed the main hall and reached for the reception desk. But he was soon interrupted by a few women with revealing clothes.
Hey, handsome, why don't you buy us a drink?
3 young women approached him and immediately tried to lean on him or grab his arms. However, they soon stopped in place, petrified by the cold gaze that Noah showed them. He then continued to walk toward the desk as if nothing had happened, uncaring of the mocking that followed his actions.
I hate men who don't know how to have some fun.
He doesn't deserve us. His thing must have some kind of malfunction anyway.
That's right. Only eunuchs are able to turn us down.
Yet, seeing that their words had no effect on him, they soon stopped, searching for another man to exploit.
What can I do for you?
A waitress spoke to Noah as soon as he reached the desk. Noah didn't answer. He took a small bag from his space ring and handed it to her. The waitress was confused. She inspected the bag only to find that it contained 5,000 credits.
I need to meet with Miss Gillian. I have some business with her.
The waitress stood in place for a moment before hiding the bag inside her robe.
Wait here.
She then filled a jug with wine and handed it to him before hurrying somewhere. Noah inspected the wine and slowly tasted it. Its quality was far worse than the one he usually had in the capital, but he still drank it. He wanted to show his goodwill to anyone who was observing him. It was only when he emptied his jug that the waitress reached for him and spoke with her head lowered.
Miss Gillian is waiting for you. Follow me.
Noah followed the waitress into a deeper part of the hall, where they entered a small corridor that had many doors on its sides. The waitress then went to one of them and pressed on some specific points of the door, activating some kind of inscription that kept it locked. The door opened, showing a dark staircase that led toward an underground area.
Miss Gillian is down there. I can't escort you anymore.
Noah nodded and carefully went down the stairs, enveloping his figure in a layer of mental energy and focusing his senses. At the bottom of the stairs, Noah could see a wide table that radiated a soft light. A middle-aged woman was supporting herself on that table. She had long brown hair and was smoking from a long pipe, filling the room with a strange scent.
That smoke probably has relaxing capabilities, but it's not strong enough to affect me.
So young and yet so lonely. I wonder what course of events led you here in this forgotten city.
Gillian laid her pipe on the table and crossed her legs as he sat on it. That gesture was slow but firm. Noah couldn't help but think that it had a more profound meaning.
Your mind is also quite strong. There aren't many men who can look at me and still be so stern. It seems that the scent of the pink rose has no effect on you.
Gillian continued to assess Noah. She seemed quite surprised to see someone with such a strong mind at such a young age. Noah bowed and didn't waste time on further greetings.
I've been told that you might have something I need.
Who told you that?
Someone.
Silence enveloped the room, but Gillian nodded at his answer.
Young, handsome, and righteous. Are you sure that you don't want to entertain me for a while before we start doing business?
Noah bowed again, but shook his head.
I'm tempted, but I'm in a hurry. I'm sure that anyone would be willing to please you after I'm gone.
Noah gently refused her offer while still complimenting her, surprising Jillian even more.
So you even know your way with words. Tell me, what brings you here?
I'm looking for a map of the continent. A detailed one. It should feature the political borders and the known danger zones at least.
Jillian fell deep in thought before tapping a few times on the table behind her. The light of the table flickered a few times before 3 items appeared on it. They were 3 simple-looking scrolls, but Noah could immediately notice that they were inscribed items.
I have 3 items that meet your requirements. Their prices indicate how detailed they are. The cheaper one is 20,000 credits, and the most expensive one is 50,000 credits.
As expected, they are way overpriced. Luckily, money isn't really a problem for now.
Noah neared the table, but the scrolls immediately disappeared.
I don't do business with men I don't trust.
She left the table and neared Noah with those same slow movements as before.
And I certainly don't trust men who don't have time to please a woman.
She then placed a hand on his waist and used her other one to slowly caress his face. Noah watched the scene unfolding and sighed internally before opening his mouth to speak.
Is this really necessary?
Jillian nodded.
If you want the map, you need to earn my trust.
Noah came out of the broken cup in a hurry. His hair was messy and disheveled, and his robe was untidy and open in many spots. Yet Noah didn't seem to care and ran directly from the gate leading to the countries of the Empire.
The damned woman will cause me troubles for sure.
It was with those thoughts in mind that he hurried for the gate. It was time to leave Slyfall. Meanwhile, back in the underground room of the tavern, Jillian was still lying naked on a bed, pensively looking at 50,000 credits that were in front of her.
Was he to your liking, matriarch?
The waitress neared the bed, handing Jillian a clean robe and her pipe.
Well, yes. He was less inexperienced than I thought. Yet he kept on interrupting the positions required for my technique. He maintained his awareness of me even while we were at it.
The waitress widened her eyes in disbelief and covered her mouth with one hand.
Matriarch, don't tell me. Did he discover our secret technique?
Jillian shook her head and took the pipe from the bed.
No, the diagrams of the charming demon sect are long lost. The orthodox sects of the Papral nations have made sure of it when we were forced to escape. He must have simply felt the danger coming from our positions.
The waitress nodded.
Then what should we do about him?
Jillian took a long drag from her pipe and stared absent-mindedly at the walls of the underground room for a while.
I didn't manage to absorb any of his yang during our intercourse, but he was still tainted with the scent of the pink rose. Tracking him shouldn't be a problem.
She fell silent again, taking her time to slowly smoke.
Go after him and retrieve this item. He should also have a considerable number of credits due to how detached he was with his purchase.
The waitress bowed and turned to follow her orders.
Oh, and try to capture him. He has such a lovely body for his age. I'm sure he could survive our cultivation method for many years.
The waitress bowed again and disappeared into the darkness of the room, leaving Jillian alone on her bed. Noah left the city of Slyfall. A few thousand credits had to be spent to bribe the soldier appointed to that gate, but that wasn't a problem for Noah. He didn't really care if the investigations of the royals would ultimately reach that city. He was sure that they couldn't operate so openly in another area of influence.
They finally managed to escape the domain of the Utra Nation. There should only be nations affiliated with the Shandal Empire from now on.
Noah had finally escaped the area of influence of the Elbas family. However, there was no happiness or relief in his expression.
That damned woman actually tried to use me for a demonic technique. Having sex with her is one thing, but being part of her cultivation technique? She can just keep dreaming.
Jillian was quite beautiful, and he didn't mind her request too much. Yet he had already noticed that something was wrong with her gestures, but he hadn't paid much attention to it while they were conversing. However, after they had lain in bed, she had started performing strange positions which alerted Noah's senses.
I couldn't even enjoy it because I had to change position every time to interrupt her. The map is the real deal, at least.
He had bought the most expensive item of the three, and he was pleasantly surprised by its quality. The map depicted the entire continent and highlighted all the known danger zones. Also, it had the geopolitical division of each country, and one could use their mental energy to inspect what information the map held. The information mostly regarded their alliances and other general aspects, but the owner of the map could add more details if he wanted. The only big flaw of the map was that it didn't show any details of the three big nations. There were basically 3 large empty spots on the picture of the continent. However, that was far more than enough for Noah.
With this, I can stop running blindly in other countries and can actively choose a route. The only problem is, will Jillian let me go?
The reason why he left in such a hurry was that he wasn't sure about Jillian's reaction. He had done his best to please her without endangering himself, but that didn't mean that he was out of trouble.
Killing her wasn't an option. I can't just fight her in her own home and hope to escape the city afterward. Also, the maps were locked by the inscriptions on the tables. I needed her to be willing to hand them to me. I did everything I could. Now it's up to her. Well, if she really decides to rob me, I will just kill them all.
Noah didn't think that Jillian would personally come to rob him. Her position seemed quite important in that secret market. She couldn't just leave it.
She seemed strong, but I've hidden my power quite well. There was a high chance that she will underestimate me.
Noah had, after all, the aspect of a young man. Most of the people who met him wouldn't imagine the rank of his centers of power.
It is better if I don't make many stops, though. I should get away from here first.
The city of Slyfall was quite isolated from society, and the mountain range repelled strong magical beasts, preventing danger zones from forming. Basically, the area around the city was quite deserted.
Damn it. They've come already.
Noah felt 10 presences in the distance that had their focus on him.
I should let them follow me for a while. They might have reinforcements in the city. I'll just wait till I reach that mountain to kill them.
Noah's eyes shone with a cold light as he continued to run with his usual hurried pace toward a mountain in the distance. The mountain right after Slyfall didn't have a name, but it was marked in Noah's map as a danger zone.
It says that there is a pack of loud eagles. They are strong in sound attacks, but they usually prefer long-distance combat. I won't find them at the base of the mountain.
Once he knew the type of magical beasts that occupied the mountain, Noah was immediately able to decide which was the safest place to fight the cultivators behind him.
They're picking up speed. It seems that they don't want to fight too far away from the city.
Noah smiled under his hood and accelerated. The 10 cultivators following him were surprised by that gesture. Noah was going quite fast already, but that speed was still in the human ranks. However, Noah's new pace completely surpassed that limit.
He has a rank 4 body.
One of the cultivators told the others.
And he was able to perceive us. Let's hurry.
They had just realized that they had underestimated Noah. Yet they needed to retrieve the map. They couldn't just go back and reorganize.
I've revealed the power of my body. They are still after me. So they must have some confidence.
Noah continued to run toward the mountain. Those behind him weren't able to catch up, but they also weren't losing ground. Their speed was the same. However, Noah could sense the usage of breath behind him.
Some of them are using spells to keep up. It seems that not all of them have a rank 4 body.
That realization reassured Noah. His trump card was the demonic form spell, and it was almost impossible to resist it with only a rank 3 body. It was enough for Noah to touch them, and they would vanish.
I can't be that naive. They will surely use their number against me. I should avoid being encircled if possible.
He was far away from his usual environment. He didn't know which techniques they used, nor how organized they were.
The forms used by Jillian weren't orthodox. It's safe to assume that her followers would use something peculiar too.
There were many ways to fight in that world, and Noah only knew a small part of them. The Academy had taught him well, but the world was too big. It was impossible to learn about every single technique, especially the unorthodox ones. The mountain neared, and soon occupied all of Noah's field of view.
I should lose them first.
His figure, enveloped in black flames, disappeared completely from the sight of his followers.
What? A teleportation spell?
Calm down. He couldn't have gone far. And we can still track his position thanks to the scent of the pink rose.
The cultivators stopped their march and gathered in a circle. They stood in silence. They were using a specific technique to follow that peculiar scent.
He is on the mountain.
Yes, but he stopped at its base.
Is he trying to ambush us?
No, he probably thinks that his last spell made us lose track of him. Come on, let's go.
They resumed their chase. Meanwhile, Noah had appeared on one of the branches of the trees at the base of the mountain. His attention was completely focused on his followers, and Echo was using its innate ability to help Noah's perception.
They're coming right at me. This isn't just luck. It must be Jillian's fault.
Noah covered his figure with many layers of mental energy and proceeded to carefully inspect his body. He had been cautious the previous night, but the actions of the cultivators behind him had aroused his suspicion. However, even after he analyzed his body inch by inch, he couldn't find anything out of the ordinary.
I guess I'll have to ask them.
Noah dug a hole in the tree and hid inside it. He was preparing his ambush. The 10 cultivators reached the base of the mountain. They had a clear idea of where Noah was, but they couldn't pinpoint his exact position. They were still following a scent, after all. There was a margin of error. Yet, they still reached the area where he was hiding. They simply had to search, and they would find him.
Let's divide into 5 groups and search. We will meet at the center of this area.
The group of 10 formed 5 groups of 2 people and continued their search for Noah. They were all relatively close. If something happened to one group, they could immediately help them. One group of the 2 sensed some movement behind a series of bushes and carefully neared them. They slowly approached the area, only to find that a plain-looking black panther was there,
tossing around a large bat with its maw.
They're just magical beasts.
What a peculiar scene, though. You don't see these types of beasts in the mountain every day.
The 2 women exchanged a few looks and turned to continue their search, but to their surprise, the 2 beasts stopped fighting and jumped on them.
merely rank 3 beasts. Learn your place.
One of the women attacked with a whip that had suddenly appeared in her hands. The whip tore at the panther's chest and severed the bat's head. She relaxed, but the beasts still moved after being mortally wounded and reached the 2 cultivators, fangs ready to sink into them.
Fucking beast!
The 2 tried to react, but they soon understood that something was wrong. The beasts had a long, fuming line that connected them to something at the top of a tree. Then, black smoke began to envelop the 2 beasts, spreading to the women who were holding still. Screams resounded at the base of the mountain, turning the attention of the other 8 cultivators in their direction. What they saw was gruesome. A fuming bat and a fuming panther were biting with all their might their 2 companions, and black smoke continued to envelop their figures, consuming their skin and flesh. They were so engrossed by the sight that they were one step too late in noticing that black flames had appeared behind 2 of them.